Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with our next session. I hope you had a great lunch, and don't worry, there's more time for table discussion within this session as well, so you'll be able to talk more to your neighbors. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sam Wardette, the program manager at Sustain Dane. Thank you. I've been working with so many of you in this room and in our community for the past 2.5 years at Sustain Dane, and it brings me so much joy. I'm excited to talk to you more about the impact of our Accelerate Sustainability workshop today, as well as highlighting some local case studies of businesses that took part in it. I have to say, it's really inspiring to see you all here today. I see that we have businesses, nonprofits, schools, government, community leaders, and more gathered here together. This is powerful because sustainability isn't the work of one sector or one organization, but rather all of us together. Every action matters, every project matters, whether it's rethinking energy use, reducing your waste, or reimagining how we engage our people and communities like in this morning's exercise. And when we collaborate and bring different perspectives together, our impact can be amplified and long-lasting. This is something we strive to do at Sustain Dane programs. For this session specifically, I want to talk with you about one of our programs that focuses on sustainability in businesses and organizations. So let's get started with a little exercise. Could you please raise your hand if you've ever bought a product or a service from a business because of their sustainability initiatives? Awesome, yes, so many hands. This is important because across the country, people are calling for businesses to be part of the solution in addressing climate change. And our community, and those in this room, are no exception. The Yale Climate Opinion Map, shown here on the screen, shows just how widespread that expectation is. 77% of people in Dane County believe that corporations should do more to address global warming. That's 9% higher than the national average, and the highest percentage of any county in the state, which you can see with the darker shading color on the map. In other words, this is something our community cares about and is asking for. At the end of the day, it's people inside of businesses, like so many of you in this room, that are making sustainability happen. Our Accelerate Sustainability Workshop, or ASW for short, we love our acronyms. It's a half-day professional development event that helps organizations move from ideas to action. It's all about connecting you with the tools, people, and real-world examples you need to take action around sustainability at your organization. We've been working with businesses and organizations for over 15 years. Before our Accelerate Sustainability Workshop, that's been going for 5 years, there was a program called our Empower program that started in 2009. One more raise of hands. How many folks have attended our Empower or our ASW program? Yeah, great. That's a lot of hands. Our next workshop, we do this every year, will be in April in 2026, and there's a place to be notified of the date and more information on our website. During the ASW workshop, participants learn about sustainability leadership strategies, hear from businesses who have completed successful projects, and make a commitment to their own sustainability goals, sometimes on colorful Post-its like you see on the screen. ASW is really a launch point. It sparks collaboration, builds accountability, and creates momentum. Participants walk away feeling energized and equipped to turn ideas into measurable impact. It takes time and persistence to complete these sustainability projects, especially when there are limited resources like time and funding. So let's take a moment to celebrate our wins. It's been so inspiring to work alongside the participants of the Accelerate Sustainability Workshop over the past 5 years. In that time, we partnered with more than 150 different organizations and engaged over 300 individuals, each committed to driving change within their workplace and community. Their projects have created a powerful ripple effect, reaching more than 82,000 people, and together we've grown a community that shares knowledge, cultivates leadership, and sparks innovation for a more sustainable future. We have participants who have taken on multi-year projects, and it's such a joy to get to work with them and to be a supporter throughout their journey. Every project is a process. No one gets there overnight, but the important thing is to take that first step. Now let's take a moment to recognize our 2025 Accelerate Sustainability Workshop attendees. Look at this list. It keeps getting longer and longer every year, and hopefully we have more folks join us for our 2026 workshop that will grow into 2 slides of participants next year. These 58 organizations came together and committed to a project. Let's get into the details of this year's group a little bit more. Before attending the workshop, ASW participants let us know which area of sustainability they are most interested in completing a project. The top 2 areas for this year were recycling and waste reduction and energy efficiency. So what type of projects do attendees commit and complete? Some examples from this year include EUA, an architecture engineering firm, started an in-office composting program. Promega, a biotech company, is conducting an energy treasure hunt to increase energy efficiency in their buildings. And Designcraft, an advertising firm, is tracking their CO2 emissions reduced from sustainable commutes from their employees. And there are so many more that are available for you to read about and be inspired about on our website within our 2025 recap document. A person's passion and persistence makes these projects happen. You all have your areas of influence and the ability to have a large ripple effect of reaching many, many people. The projects people committed to this year are estimated to reach over 31,000 people through the ripple effect, with employees and clients served. One of the things that I find most rewarding during the workshop is the connections that happen real time, and I've seen that happen here today too. I overhear conversations that someone wants to talk with a composting service or their waste hauler, and those people are in the room 2 tables away from them. This is the program where ideas turn into actions. Now we're going to bring up a panel of 3 individuals that stood out to me this year for their inspiring projects and examples of bringing ideas to action. Please help me in welcoming Ben, Molly, and Dave up on stage. It's a long walk up here. We didn't account for that. Awesome. I'm so excited to get in these stories and hope you're all inspired by them today. We'll start with a round of introductions. Ben, can you go first and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do at Findorff?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Ben Austin, the Sustainability Manager at Findorff. I wanted to start just by giving a huge shout out to Sustain Dane. We were involved in 2017 in the Empower Business Champions program, and we re-engaged with kind of a reinvigorated green team this year. And again, we're finding continual value and engaging through these different efforts. So strong recommendation from me. So to contextualize who Findorff is, a lot of you have probably seen us in our tower cranes, but we're a $1 billion general contractor. We're headquartered here in Madison. We have offices in Milwaukee and Wausau as well. We do all types of commercial construction. A couple of specifics about us. We have about 1,000 to 1,200 employees. That fluctuates because about 75% of our workforce are one of 6 union trades people. So those are carpenters, ironworkers, cement finishers, masons, and a few others. And I think as we get into the content later, the fact that we are a self-performed contractor and have ownership under certain components of the work, right? Everything else, electrical, et cetera, we subcontract out. But what we have ownership and have the ability to move the needle on ties into what I'll get into in a little bit. I've been at Findorff my entire career, about 15 years now. I was kind of in a traditional project management role and then had a passion for sustainability and built out a dedicated role really in line with the Empower Sustainable Business Champions program in 2017. So I've been living this piece of the life for the last 8 years, and half my time is really in project support, identifying and delivering on sustainability goals on our projects, and the other half is now on the corporate sustainability side. Want to shout out to 2 members of our team, Haley and Bob in the audience, our sustainable engineer and facility ops manager, because it takes a village, and again, get as many collaborators as you can in this work.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Molly, next, can you introduce yourself and your role?
My name is Molly Kolano. I am the Director of Health, Safety, and Sustainability for Noah's Ark Waterpark, located in Wisconsin Dells, and for Hershon Family Entertainment. When we're open for 3 months out of the year, I primarily respond to incidents that happen in the park. I conduct investigations and then ensure that all the attractions are safe for guests to use. The other part of the year, I do sustainability initiatives for all the parks in the company. I've been with Noah's Ark since June 2024 after I graduated from Stevens Point in May of 2024.
Awesome. Thanks, Molly. And lastly, Dave, can you introduce yourself and your role at Easy Office Products?
My name is David Hanson. I'm an account manager at Easy Office Products, and we are an independently owned and operated office supply company right here in Madison, Wisconsin, and we've been doing it for about 20 years. I do believe this is our 20th year. I have been with the company for going on 7 years. As an account manager, I am solely responsible for an entire territory, and to give you a little idea, my territory could be the northern side of Madison up into Wanakee, DeForest, Sun Prairie, Baraboo, Beaver Dam, anything north as far as we go north. I'm kind of a hybrid. My daily responsibilities is always making sure everything goes well as far as operating a company's day-to-day operations. It could be product specifications, it could be inventory, it could be customer service, it could be returns, and it is always delivery. I am the jack of all trades, I guess you could say, but we really want to try to incorporate a hands-on direct feel with all our customers and clients, and we'll continue to do that as we expand.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, let's get into your projects that you've been working on this year. So Ben, Findorff has a history of investment and commitment to sustainability, but you're doing something a little bit different now with your carbon reduction planning through the Glide Path project. Can you tell us the story of building this glide path, how it got started, and how you're seeing it impact all areas of the business?
Yes, the first thing I need to do is define what the heck we mean when we say a glide path.
Please.
So to put a little more structure around the topic, so we're really trying to identify when we think about science-based targets and a glide path to carbon neutrality for our direct emissions by 2050, what does that mean? And I feel like a lot of people get bogged down when we think that far ahead and not all the solutions exist today. So what we're trying to do with this project, and again, putting some structure, was really to think through the 5 and 10-year outlook. If we take our carbon emissions in 2024, what does the next 5 and 10 years look like? What tangible things can we pull? What are the costs and the effort to do that? And I mentioned our direct emissions, so I'm going to try to stay out of too much jargon, but those reduction targets are just on our scope 1 and 2 emissions, and for Findorff that means the buildings we own, the fleet we own and operate, and then our job sites. And our job sites, going back to my intro, is really we're a general contractor, so there's general site things, temporary heating, our trailers and the generators and different fueling associated with that, and then there's all the self-perform work, right? The concrete operations, the masonry operations, et cetera. So that gets a little sticky. So to think about just kind of how we got here, to me it's a little bit of the metaphor peeling back the layers of the onion and seeing what we can see and not knowing really what's on the inside. We started back in 2018 as I got into this role, and we were involved in Empower and had some efforts internally around our buildings, right? We're comfortable in that, we're our contractor. We knew the solutions that exist, and we did a bunch of things that made sense. The next step we took was to look at our fleet. We were all surprised when we looked at the carbon emissions of our fleet compared to our buildings, and the fleet was 2 times higher. It's like, oh, we haven't been looking at our fleet. We really need to reprioritize and try to figure out what to do there. And I think this all kind of leads into, we have internal expertise as a contractor. We definitely have gaps in our expertise, and we all do. That's why we need to continue to keep learning, but we acknowledge that and onboarded a consultant really to help come alongside us and build a formal inventory management plan. So that happened late last year, and just earlier this April, we had our first full view into our scope 1, 2, and 3, our full emissions as a company. And again, we learned something new. 65% of our overall emissions are in our job sites. So as a recap, 10% of our scope 1 and 2 in our buildings, 25% in our fleet roughly, and 65% in our job sites. And the reality is that our job sites are super complicated, right? You think about it's a mobile factory where you're building a custom building every different time. You're dealing with environmental conditions, different fuel vendors, different utilities. It becomes complex super quick, and I acknowledge that. I'm humbled by how little I know every single day in this work, but I'm still working at it. And I think part of what's made us successful and at least gotten us to this point is just, again, tapping those internal areas of expertise. I mentioned Bob and Haley earlier. We have a green team. We have a data team that's helped scrub invoices for fuel data, something I would never have been able to figure out on my own. So I think, again, lean into the resources you have at your disposal.
Awesome, thanks. I think that's something really important to emphasize, is that there are sometimes these gaps in knowledge. We don't know everything. We might have our little niche and internal champions that we can rely on, or external consultants. And I think that ties a little bit into Molly's project as well. Can you share the story of learning about decommissioned Waterpark equipment and then taking on the challenge to find a solution to recycle it?
Yeah, of course. So when I started at my company, the sustainability position was completely new. So they took me to all the parks on our east, and I started doing an environmental kind of research to see what I was working with. I went to a lot of their boneyards, or areas where you don't really see where they store a lot of their hazardous waste and storage. What I started to see was there was a lot of old fiberglass equipment just sitting around in these boneyards rusting away. So when I was done with this tour, I began to do a little research to see what I could do to recycle these structures. And quickly, I realized that recycling fiberglass is notoriously difficult. So through research, I continued on, and I stumbled across an article from Viola North America, and they have a site in Missouri where they're able to shred down decommissioned wind turbine blades, use that solution in the process of making cement. So they use the shredded fiberglass, and they replace coal in that process, lessening fossil fuel usage. I connected with them and was able to send a sample of our fiberglass over, and we were accepted into their program. So from there, from being in the program, I had to coordinate with all the maintenance directors to make sure all the metal was off of these fiberglass structures. After that happened, it was a lot of work. These maintenance departments focus on operating these amusement parks and water parks across the host states, so this project did take a while. But in September, we were able to successfully divert over 6 tons of fiberglass from the landfill to this company to be used in the process of making cement.
Awesome. And just in case there's some people that are curious, is this a process that you have to pay for, or do you get payment for when you recycle the equipment?
Yeah, so this we do have to pay for it. We set up the freight and send that to the Viola site where it's broken down, but unfortunately it is an expense to us.
Yeah, but it's good that you're taking the commitment and being able to move that forward. That's awesome. Dave, I understand that Easy Office Products was founded with a commitment to the environment. Can you talk a little bit about where that commitment came from and the journey from going from your first initiative with renewable energy all the way to now your first electric delivery truck?
Absolutely. First off, I will say Easy Office is not a billion-dollar company. When I came to Easy Office, I came from one of the national competitors who didn't really have a focus on sustainability. And when I came to Easy Office, Gary Moles, one of our fearless leaders, told me that one of the pillars of our business philosophy was sustainability. His mantra was, you can never do enough, and you can always do more. He said sustainability is every individual's responsibility, and it's every company's responsibility, no matter how big or how small. One of the ways that we do this is 100% of our warehouse and our office, the energy is provided through wind power. There is a program through MG&E, I believe it is called Green Power Tomorrow, that allows you to use energy from wind farms and wind turbines. And I believe it also, as of now, can do solar farms as well, or solar power. And that is a very great sense of pride to Easy Office to know that everything that we use in our office and warehouse is through wind power. Another daily way that we provide sustainability and renewable products is the fact that we go through a lot of paper, a lot of boxes, a lot of styrofoam. Our customers go through a lot of boxes, paper, and styrofoam. And we are very big into combining and reusing, repurposing a lot of the cardboard, styrofoam, paper, bubble wrap that we come across. I think where sustainability meets its challenges, people aren't aware of it enough. So since we are out every day delivering to customers, whether it's a company or an individual, we are being advocates for the idea of sustainability, recycling, reusing, repurposing, and all that. And we will go through tons and tons of boxes that if we don't reuse and repurpose, we will send back to our distributors for them to reuse and repurpose. We will take boxes at customers' accounts that we didn't even deliver and do the same thing. Another big thing that Easy Office prides itself on is we will take used ink cartridges and toners from all our customers. Whether they bought it from us or not, we let them know that we will take it and we will actually bring it to a company in Middleton that will either repurpose what they can use or they will recycle it. And most of you probably work in an office environment and know how much you actually go through used toners and cartridges. And a lot of the larger companies, national companies, have steered clear of allowing that service to exist anymore. It's time consuming, it's costly, and a lot of our customers are actually throwing them out. So every month we have thousands of pounds of used toners and cartridges going back to be recycled and repurposed. And that's a sense of pride for us that we can do that and provide this for the customer and then educate them on why we are doing it. So it's another way that we try to be a champion for sustainability. The logical choice, lastly, was to go to an electric vehicle, to start our fleet of trucks. As they have gotten older and as we've grown as a company, that was the next logical step is, should we go to an electric vehicle? And as of about 5 weeks ago, we finally got our first one.
Awesome. And we'll hear more about it in a little bit. But let's go dig into these projects a bit more. Ben, as you mentioned, there's so much that goes into this carbon reduction planning across your different sectors, buildings, fleets, and job sites. Can you share an example with us of a project that you want to highlight or just something that you're excited about during this process?
Yeah, and I'm going to maybe just give you a snapshot of like where we're at. This is obviously a longer term effort. But I think as we sit right now, I think in the buildings and the fleet components of our emissions profile, I think we kind of understand the solutions. Buildings are only 10%. Again, we've done a variety of things and understand the value of looking at control systems and LED lights and solar panels and other things, and I'll sing those from the rooftop all day. I think on the fleet, we did pull the trigger on a EV pilot, and it became abundantly clear that we needed home chargers to make it successful, and we needed kind of an integrated tool that allowed the drivers to get reimbursed. So I think we understand if we scaled that up what to do there, and that gets us to today in our job sites, which is wading through a sea of data that comes from all over the place that is really difficult to know what to do with. And Dave just mentioned awareness building and tying back into what I talked about collaboration. The example to Sam's point about a project I'm interested in is really building out a job site sustainability working group internally. I mentioned we kind of got re-engaged in the ASW program because we re-kicked off our green team. So we have Findorff Footprint, ERG is our internal green team. We have a really active Madison office group that does community engagement, volunteering, different efforts around the office, and has really built kind of a grassroots, a group of champions who are interested in the content and want to see Findorff do more in this space. So I think now that we're at the point that we have a ton of data, we need to take that model and go out to, well, our numbers were last week, 850 men and women in the field who are putting the work in place and do a deeper engagement and awareness effort to say, here's the challenge that's in front of us. Here's where we're trying to go. We're trying to identify these opportunities. And Haley and I have been working on, identifying essentially 45 is the short list at this point of job site decarbonization opportunities where we've identified. And now we're going out to external partners and internal partners and trying to socialize those and say, here's why we're doing it. Here's where we're trying to go. How can you help us get there? Because again, I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know. That's not a very philosophical statement, but that's what's coming out of my mouth. So I think just that collaboration, an anecdote that I was out on a job site a couple weeks ago talking to one of our mason foremen who I would never take for someone who would want to even engage with me on a topic of, you're right, sometimes you say sustainability and people's eyes glaze over or they turn off for whatever reason, but the number of ideas that he had for what we could do kind of stopped me in my tracks. So moving forward, the project is that job site sustainability working group and figure out who out there we haven't engaged with, and I think right now we don't really know the potential of when we tap into all those resources, what we're going to find out, but it's going to lead us down a better path.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, we got to keep up the applause because we clapped so much for the Housing and Sustainability panel this morning. We got to compete with them. Molly, could you tell us a little bit more about what you learned from this process? Maybe talk about some of any surprises or challenges you faced when advocating for sustainability in this organization.
Yeah, so as my position was new in sustainability, there was many challenges. For beginners, this is my first job out of college, so managing projects, especially my own, was a big adjustment on top of advocating for it. Also, during my first year of employment, our company did switch to a different entertainment brand, so that did slow down some of my sustainability projects significantly. One of the parks in California was very close to a fiberglass pickup, but when the company sold, I no longer had communication ties to them. Additionally, it is also difficult to do these projects when I'm just based out in Noah's Ark. I'm not at these other parks able to collaborate with them. But that being said, I still love doing these sustainability projects. The entertainment industry is very consumptive, so being able to lessen the environmental impact has been truly rewarding.
Awesome. And I know there's a second piece of it too. You talked about this recycling and viola piece, but if you want to touch on the reuse piece that we had talked about before.
Yeah, at some of our water parks, I noticed we had some water slides that were decommissioned, and they had a lot of flume pieces. So rather than recycling these, I was looking for alternative ways to reuse it. I found a company called American Slide Company, and they reuse slides for recreational use for families or facilities. They were able to pick up one of our water slides at Raging Waters LA in California and reuse that, which was really awesome because that slide had an engineering error, so it was just sitting there rusting away. I have another pickup at Lake Compounds in one of our parks in Connecticut. They have a very large slide that they are picking up soon in November.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, now Dave, let's talk more about the truck. So you get to drive this on the daily for work. What has been your hands-on experience with it?
Yes, the truck. The hands-on experience has been great. I mean, in continuing with the mantra, you can always do more. You can never do enough. It was the next logical step for us, is to get an electric vehicle. Since my territory is a lot of city and rural communities, Gary Moles, again, our fearless leader, decided that I was the best guinea pig to see how it worked. That way I can get a balance between city driving and open highway driving. We originally wanted to look into EV vehicles back in 2019, just before COVID. But at the time, the technology wasn't quite there as far as battery life, how far the battery could get us. Prices on the vehicles were kind of astronomical. So as 2025 came through, and again, as we grew, we were ready for a new vehicle. We did our research, and the pricing was far more cost effective. Battery life was far longer, and the distance we could go was more suitable to what we need. I drive about 250 miles a day. That's a lot of gas. That's a lot of filling up during the week. So from a cost standpoint, an electric vehicle sounded like a great idea. I grew up on gas cars. I have not had an electric vehicle, so I had to do a little diligent homework to know what I was in for. And the first thing as far as driving was how quiet it was. To be honest with you, I've gone in many times and started to try to go and realize that it wasn't on. And then when it was on, tried to start it. Our particular vehicle has a very meditative hum when it's on. And if you have electric vehicles, maybe you know this. Again, I'm new to this. The first time Gary took me for a ride, I was like, what are you listening to? Is this spa music? And he's like, no, that's the battery. I'm like, wow. So it's kind of an inside joke while we're there. We get a charger installed in our warehouse, which was nice because, again, the charger is all through wind power electricity. I have no complaints whatsoever as far as the EV vehicle. The safety features are amazing. It kind of looks similar to what Amazon using, but it more looks like a private coach, if you will, a shuttle. It has an immense window. It has a cockpit for a seat. Believe it or not, for a delivery truck, it is all-wheel drive with heated steering and heated seats. I have 6 cameras that show me 2 or 3 different angles from each camera at any time that I want to see them. It really is a command center. So it's a little outrageous for me, but it drives smooth. Battery life was a little misleading. On a full charge, my truck will say 306 miles. As the cold weather has come in, that's down to about 285, 280. What's nice is I get to see how much battery life I have left and how many miles I have left on the battery. Unfortunately, the miles left on the battery does not coincide with the miles on the odometer, which I'm learning. Unlike a gas car where city driving consumes a lot of gas, inner city driving for an electric vehicle is great. The battery regenerates quite often. It's when you get on the open road, 70 miles an hour on a gusty day, and that battery will start to deplete pretty quick. So that was one of the cons that I saw in the vehicle was once you're out of the city into rural areas, charging stations are not as prevalent, and your battery life will start to drain a lot quicker than you thought. So what I would say going forward to anybody is know what you're using it for. If you are an open road driver with a heavy payload driving on the highway a lot, you're going to have to stop and charge it. That could be 30 minutes to an hour. And so that's, again, I'm a guinea pig, so we're learning this. For me and my balanced route, it's working out just fine. And I think city driving, it would be perfect. But the only con that I can see so far, and please note, I have not had it in the winter, which I have heard some trepidations and challenges once the cold weather hits. But as of right now, that's the only the battery life drainage from the power used on open highway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one quick follow-up. Have any of the clients you're delivering to noticed the truck, and are they
Every
saying
one of
anything?
them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. Because again, it looks like a private rock band's coach just pulled up. It does have a giant sunflower on the side of it. And I get customers and people on the street stopping to ask about it. We actually have a 2025 Chevy Bright Drop 600. It's fairly long, but it is a conversation starter. And again, the first thing they ask is, how far can you go? How long does it take to charge? And so the conversation starts on EV vehicles, which is, I think, what it's all about. That's the strength of what we do is we interact with so many different people on a daily basis that we can start the conversation regarding EV vehicles, because I think it will be the way to go once certain parameters are met.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Okay, we have one last. Oh, I'm like, we can clap. We have one last question for each of our panelists, and then we're going to get into some table discussion so you can talk to your neighbors. Ben, are there any lessons learned that you would like to share with others who may be doing a similar project?
I'll be publishing a book next year called The Lessons I've Learned. I mentioned this to someone, like, there's no perfection in this work. When we were prepping for this session, I appreciate, like, we're trying things, right? And that's what you got to do. You got to see what you can do, try it out. If it doesn't work, pivot and keep moving forward. I think a lot about building capacity, right? $1 billion company, but it was a department of one. I got Haley on the team. We have a broad team within our ERG, but thinking about how to build capacity through partnerships and collaboration, something I spend a lot of time on. That's raising awareness and engaging people internally. That's tapping into expertise. We sat down with MG&E and talked about a fully electric job site. What does that mean? How do we plan for it? I think having conversations like that with the broader community are just how we kind of we tell them what we're thinking about. They provide maybe some ideas on solutions, and that's how it all works out. The skills gap is real. We're kind of in the depths of carbon disclosure and reporting from what a lot of our clients are dealing with in Europe or in California or wherever, and we become part of that ecosystem as one of their building providers. So we're quickly trying to get up to speed with what is a very complicated reality of carbon disclosure and reporting. If you're an expert there, please come find me. So I think trying to leverage what's happening elsewhere. Again, I spend a lot of time looking at our peers in the industry across the country and beyond, what's working elsewhere. We're a cold climate, what things are working in cold climates elsewhere, and everything else. I also spend a lot of time thinking about the why. I mentioned it earlier. I think the why for us is we care about sustainability. There's a values alignment with a lot of the folks we're building buildings for. And hey, we did have one client who told us we have to do this by 2027 or we won't be able to do work with them, right? It's like mandating this stuff does change the conversations. As a contractor who, again, we're reactive in a way because we're high risk, low margin business. It's the way it is. But that type of interplay does make a difference. So if you care about this stuff, expecting different things from your supply chain is one way to make a big impact. The only other thing I will say is we are in the reality of just wading through seas of data. I still don't know what to say. And it's complicated. So we're very much trying to figure out how do we manage it internally versus adopt some kind of tool. But having data that is comprehensive and usable and quality is one challenge we're still trying to work through of how do we measure what we do if we start to implement hybrid generators on job sites. What's going to give us the data to understand if that was a success or not. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Molly, this is such a cool project that you've basically built from the ground up with your new role. Is there anything else on the horizon, any other initiatives that you're either hoping to implement or have implemented that you want to share?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to continue to grow this project that I started. I have 3 other parks in the fiberglass project enrolled with a pickup in November from one of our largest parks, Kennywood, where hopefully we will mitigate over 8 tons of fiberglass from the landfill. Other initiatives I do, I'm a park support director for environmental initiatives. So I've set up scrap metal bins for other parks that just have too many pieces of metal laying around. Recently in Georgia, we had 2 parks close and they had massive above ground storage tanks. So I kind of take that from their workload and do the environmental research and state policies to make sure we can properly close out those tanks and such. But
That's awesome. Thank you. And lastly, Dave, do you have any recommendations for other businesses? You've touched a little bit on looking at transitioning to EVs, but also maybe just implementing sustainability initiatives in general.
You know, I think every great success and achievement starts with a great conversation. And if you really want to be a champion for sustainability, you have to start the conversations. You have to introduce them to a culture of sustainability. We try to do that on a daily basis, making people aware, educating them however you can. We are a society of convenience and stuff that you're comfortable with. And sometimes you have to get away from that because the short-term effect is going to hurt the long-term effect. And I always tell people one of the first things I learned was price and value are different things. You know, people are still using styrofoam, they're still using plastic cutlery, and that's a short-term profit, but the long-term value is not going to be the same. So it's about educating, being an advocate. As far as electric vehicles, know what you're going to use it for. Know that if you're going long distances out of towns, you may have to know where the charging stations are and hope that they are in working order. You know, the pricing on electric vehicles is coming down right now pretty fast. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. But as far as cost effective so far, it's been absolutely perfect. And on a side note, and we had talked about this, on a personal level, when you're filling up a vehicle with gas every 2 or 3 days, you tend to go into the local Quick Trip and buy yourself lunch or breakfast or both. And soon you realize that on days you're not filling up with gas, you're still going to that Quick Trip and you're buying yourself breakfast or lunch or both. And then you realize 5 days a week you're going to Quick Trip and you're spending money. Since I had an electric vehicle, I do not stop for gas anymore, and I do not go to Quick Trip, and my wife is ecstatic by the money that we're saving. And every one of our drivers does, because it's comfort and it's convenience. So from a side note, personal reference, it has saved me personally quite a bit of money. And again, showing me that what comfort and convenience can actually do, and sometimes it's not a good thing. So to be a champion, you have to educate, think outside the box, and that's about it. That's what I've learned.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your stories today. They really stood out to me, and I hope you all are inspired by them. So now we're going to move a little bit into table discussion time. We have a question for you. I realized I'm going to have to turn the projector back on. So let's give our panelists one round of applause, and you can go ahead and exit that side of the stage. Okay, so we want to give you some time to talk about your own sustainability wins and things you've seen in your life. This could be something big or small, either in your personal or professional life. Your win could even be that you had a new idea today based on something you heard. We'll give you about 10, 15 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and call you back for a couple closeout notes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do a couple share outs like we did this morning. So if you were inspired by any sustainable wins that you have come across this year or anybody at your tables, we're going to have Sonali and Frankie running around with mics again. They'll race and see who wins. To whoever raises their hand. So if you have one that you'd like to share, if you could raise your hand. I'm like, I see you stretching, Speedy. Was that a hand raise? We got one up front.
I'm Marilyn Chohaney from Sustain Verona, and we learned from our neighbors at our table that they have worked pretty much single-handedly to preserve a Ho-Chunk native corn seed that was lost for generations, and they finally located it in Kentucky and are reproducing it.
Wow.
And it's wonderful.
We'll do a couple more. I'm like, I can wait. We can make it awkward. Oh, we got another one up front, Frankie. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan Dominguez, the Senior Manager of Public Relations at Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison. So I was sharing my little story about my daughter. This Halloween, she wanted to be the Lorax. And so we used a pool noodle from the summertime to make her tree because she wanted it to be bigger than her. So I did that, and then we had our lovely Spencer that came last year to Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison and was a judge for our wreath making contest with all the employees. And we, again, used pool noodles back then and made different wreaths, and he got to judge, and we used whatever we had around the office or we had at home and brought it in and made some kind of wreath out of it. So, yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Do we have one last person that wants to share their sustainability win? Oh, we got another one right there, Frankie.
Janelle Taylor from Attic Angel Community in Middleton. We have been working on a solar project for our community for a couple of years. It was projected originally to be completed in 2029, but with the bomb that went off, we looked at some doomsday scenarios and decided that we really needed to accelerate our project regardless of the cost, and we did get board approval. So in the next couple of months, we are finalizing our solar project, which is equipping 123 ranch-style homes for our seniors with solar, as well as updates to our main campus, which already have commercial arrays.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope these conversations continue and you continue to celebrate your wins this year. As we've heard from our panelists and maybe some of your table discussions today, implementing projects takes dedication, creativity, and time, sometimes multiple years. New this year, we are highlighting local sustainability leadership of past ASW participants who completed our annual check-in survey. Their projects are in planning, progress, or already complete, and they are making a difference in inspiring others. These are our 2025 Sustainability Accelerators, businesses and teams who took what they learned at the workshop and turned it into action. Let's give them all a round of applause. We have certificates available for each of these organizations at the check-in table that you're welcome to pick up. Sustain Dane works to create these spaces that spark new ideas, inspire projects, and build momentum. There's no single way to begin or complete a project, and every journey looks a little different, and hopefully you've seen that with all the stories that were shared today. What matters is taking that first step and knowing that Sustain Dane is here to support you along the way. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Spencer, who's going to introduce our next session about another project that illustrates collaboration and inspiration. Thank you.